Sweet. Oh, I think we're live. Not sure if an intro played or not, but that's fine. Hey, all. Welcome to another AI in Focus with thoughtbot. This is the series we've been running. Chad's been hosting a bunch of them, but I'm Jimmy. I'm a senior developer at thoughtbot, and with me is Sarah Jackson.
Hello, also a senior developer here at thoughtbot.
Yeah, and we are joined with a couple other thoughtbotters that might pop in and out, but today we're going to be playing with more AI tooling, so staying on theme. And we'll be using Cursor, the code editor, which is a fork of VS Code, but kind of AI-ified, to build a Next.js version of our internal tool hub. So Chad has been building with Hub, adding functionality to it, making some upgrades on the previous AI in Focus series videos. Today, we're trying to rebuild Hub in Next.js using AI as much as possible. So the goal is to basically see how far we can get just relying on the LLM models, the latest and greatest. So yeah, let me give y'all a quick introduction to Hub. If you haven't been on an AI in Focus video, or if you have, you will recognize this, but we've got Hub running on my local machine. This is what it looks like. So at thoughtbot, this is our internal application, and it's called Hub because it's like the hub for all the things. It mostly connects to a bunch of external systems. It helps us with like hiring, scheduling, tracking projects, clients. We confirm our time at the end of the week in here. Has a cool Slack integration. I was on a live stream with Chad a while back, and we like updated the Slack bot integration, and that was pretty cool. So today's focus will be on the events tab we've got right here. So there's one test event, and this is just connecting to a local Postgres database I've got running. So we'll see how far we get. That's Hub. Let me just move this over here, and I'll give you all a little overview of my setup. So I've got Cursor up and running. Cursor, if you're not familiar with Cursor, it's a fork of VS Code, like I was saying, with a bunch of AI functionality built in. So it's not just like VS Code with Copilot. You've got this chat sidebar and the ability to connect to a bunch of different models. They have different modes, so you can kind of like define the model you want to work with, which right here I've got Gemini selected. You can define exactly what that model is going to be doing, like what it can use, like can it use model context protocol servers, MPC servers, which is kind of a new thing. Can it search the web? Can it do edits? Can it run commands? Right now I've created a custom mode called Ralph, which is the name of our little thoughtbot robot, and it's set up to use Gemini 2.5 Pro, which after some research seems like a pretty solid model for doing like big code base operations, which we'll be doing. And then I just selected like all the things. So Ralph has all the power. But you've got the option to select a bunch of different models like Claude, uh, the latest ChatGPTs, Grok, things like that. So I'll make sure Ralph is selected here. Cursor also has rules. So rules are pretty cool in that it's like giving your model a baseline and kind of scoping it. So this is a website on Cursor's docs, which they have a huge directory of rules that folks have written up. Here's an example of a Next.js rule. So it's kind of giving the LLM like this context of, hey, you're an awesome senior developer at Next.js, Tailwind CSS. You can use those toolings like a pro. And then you can give it specific guidelines, maybe like write really concise code, do certain things with Tailwind, small adjustments like that. And we might play with rules, but right now I've just kind of got the bare bones cursor setup with Gemini 2.5 selected. So let's start with that. And I've got a little test prompt I can start to write in here. And if y'all in the comments have any recommendations on what we can do, feel free to type those in there and we'll see how it goes. But
And Jimmy, if I can interrupt, can you explain why we are choosing Gemini 2.5 Pro? Like, are there any
sure, yeah.
differences with the other models that are supported?
Yeah, honestly, I did some Googling myself because I've just been using ChatGPT's latest model, like o4. But it sounds like Cursor also has a website that I stumbled upon when I was Googling that explains kind of like each model's capabilities and what they're best at. And Gemini 2.5 was one of the best models, kind of comparable to the latest Claude model they were saying, to doing like big refactors, big code base changes like structural changes. So it just seemed like a solid choice for doing something like this. And we might actually switch to like maybe O3 Mini or a smaller OpenAI model, and we could see how it compares. Like maybe I would expect it to be worse, but this is all kind of new to us, so we'll have to see how that goes.
Awesome.
So I'm going to write, I'd like to rebuild this application. I'm just going to do this in the hub directory that I've got open. So that model has full context of all the files in this directory, or full hub application. So I'm going to say, I'd like to rebuild this application hub in Next.js. Let's start with the events page. I currently have the app running, and the events page can be accessed via HTTP. Make sure I've got the right port pulled up, because you can also take a look at that, which is so wild. And /events. I'm also going to pull this window in here and give it a screenshot of hub. Even though it will have access to all of our Tailwind CSS, I just want to add that for fun. And we should be able to just paste that. It's that image right there.
Do we want to do a screenshot of the events page?
That's a great idea. I've added a screenshot so you can see what it looks like. Use this as guidance. I'd like to apply the existing styles to the new Next.js application. Yeah, Sarah, let me grab a screenshot showing most of the content of this events page. And then I'll get rid of that other one. Cool. Let's just start with that, and we'll go and tweak the prompt. So this is using Ralph Gemini 2.5 Pro. I've got hub running. Alrighty, so looks like Gemini is looking at the events page on my local host. That's impressive. It's excited to rebuild Hub.
it recognized that you're running on localhost 5000 just from the screenshots.
Yeah,
Did you? Oh no, you mentioned it in the prompt as well.
I did too. Yeah, it was in the. I might have captured that in the screenshot. I'm not sure if I got the address bar. Okay, so Gemini said, "I'm excited to help you." That's great. It says I'll create a Next.js directory inside your current Hub workspace that houses the new application. That's fine. This will make it easier to reference the existing Rails application, assets and styles. First, I'll use the create next app command to scaffold the Next.js project with TypeScript. That's a good choice. I didn't specify TypeScript. Tailwind CSS, ESLint, and the app router. That's also a good choice. The pages router is the older version. So it's giving me this command to run, which is creating a new Next.js application. Cool. Let's see what happens. Would we like to use TurboPack for NextDev, yes or no? I'll just say what's pre-selected. Let's go with yes.
And what is a turbo pack? I mean, it's okay if you don't know or something, but
I don't know off the top of my
just
head.
curious.
Yeah, maybe someone in chat would know. Okay, it looks like it's setting up the Next.js project. Dave in the chat said, I've been using cursor in auto mode, which chooses the model depending on the task. It's supposed to use cheaper models for simpler tasks. Nice. Yeah, I think that's what I started using cursor with as well, Dave. And I was sort of confused. I was like, how is it selecting the model for the task? That's pretty cool. It must just kind of know from the prompt. Okay, that was fast. Let's see what it did. So the Next.js project is ready. Now to bring over the styles. I'll start by looking at the existing Tailwind config. Okay, so it found that we have a Tailwind config in our hub directory. I made a mistake. It seems like it corrected the mistake. All right, I realized that we have dark mode set up. Making more adjustments with Tailwind. It's really focused on the styles, which I think makes sense because I sort of emphasized that in the prompt. It's just going to keep going. It looks like it tried to set up night mode with the night theme. Something broke. It's still going. Here's our Next.js directory there that it made. So it's doing things.
It's neat that it picked up on the dark mode that we have for Hub.
That is pretty cool. I don't know. It's not obvious to me what I'm supposed to do here. I mean, I could accept this file, but it seems to be just kind of rolling. So we'll let it go. Keep going.
And now we wait.
And now we wait and watch the AI do the work that we would normally be doing. Isn't it great being a developer in 2025?
It's just like being a developer in 2000 and having to wait for code to compile.
Yep.
I mean, one of the traits of a senior developer is to review code, and I guess that's what has become our full-time job now.
Yeah, it really is. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with all the code that the LLMs spit out. For me, sometimes I just like rage quit cursor and open VS Code. I'm like, peaceful. This is nice. Often I'll just use like VS Code and the ChatGPT app on the side. So there's like one place for the LLM to live and one place for my peaceful code to live.
Yeah,
Okay,
keep
so
the LLM fenced into a nice little garden by itself off to the side where it can,
exactly.
make a mess and it's not going to hurt anyone.
Hmm. Seems like the agent, okay, it's waiting for approval. Let's see what we're doing. Might be struggling with some CSS. Model's failing to update the file. I'll just rewrite the whole thing myself. The model's failing to edit global CSS. I'll switch to tactics. First, I'll create the necessary directories and copy the files. Then I'll reattempt the global CSS edit. Time to create the directories. It's trying to make a directory for some styles, I think. Let's accept this tailwind config that it created. And it looks like I'll go ahead and accept this global CSS. Dave said, I'm surprised Cursor's struggling with the styles instead of just copying all the CSS source files. Yeah, same. And I wonder if the Next.js app would actually run at this point. We can try taking a look real fast. It looks like the Next.js package JSON has a dev script and it's using TurboPack. So if we jump into this directory, npm install, I don't know if the AI did that, and then npm run dev. Let me see, I'll pull this window over.
Fair,
Okay,
it's
well,
a very apt comment. I'll just rewrite the whole code myself.
right?
Ah,
We have a
more
Next.js
senior than
application,
expected.
right? There is no events page, and there's a Next.js application with some broken CSS. Okay, not super impressive so far. I don't really get what it's trying to do here. The model is failing to edit global CSS. I'll switch tactics. I'll create the necessary directories and copy the files. Let's just keep going for a little while.
Yeah, maybe it's like, yeah, just copy the files. That's what you should have
Yeah,
done in the first place.
Maybe it somehow knew that we are live streaming.
right. It's reading the content CSS and creating its counterpart in the Next.js app. Okay. What is the main CSS file in our hub repo called? Do you know, Sarah? Are there a bunch of like subdirectories for Tailwind?
I do
There's
not know off the top of my head.
style
Let me
files.
do some checking in the back.
Yeah. And I don't think it actually has created an events page yet, so maybe it will get there, or maybe it forgot. We might have to remind it. Okay, by default, 25 tool calls. Let's resume the conversation. I want it to get to the point where it creates us a source/app/events folder, which would then get us to having the events route. Okay, so it's still styling. It's creating index CSS and app styles defaults. All right, cool. I feel like it's hyper focused on the styles, but I mean, it would be nice if the page was styled.
You specified emphasis on the style in the prompt, right?
I did. I didn't think I was that specific, but maybe I shouldn't have called out using the screenshot and applying the existing styles. I said, let's start with the events page. I haven't seen much focus on the events page yet, but I have a feeling it's going to run out of things to do style-wise, I hope, and then we can move on to
Mm-hmm.
building the actual events page. If not, I might have to stop it, pump the brakes.
Yeah, redirect it. Just
Yeah.
like a junior developer getting lost in the sauce, going down
Yeah.
the rabbit hole.
I usually never like do this when I'm coding myself on a client project because it starts making changes and you just can't keep up and you're like, whoa, 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 chill. Like I
Mm-hmm.
need to read some of this. So this is full on agent mode with all the power.
This is my first time actually using cursor at all or seeing it being used. So
Nice.
it's a brand new world for me watching this.
We'll keep going down this rabbit hole with styles for a little while. I sort of just want to say stop and put all the styles in one massive tailwind compatible CSS file. But did you check Hubzera and see how many CSS files there are? Because if we have like 50,
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah,
oh
Dave says
gosh.
there's a lot.
Hmm. Yeah, I might. Can I type something while it's planning? Let's say, how about we consolidate all of the
There's like a
style.
stop button in the bottom right corner. Maybe you can stop it.
Let's do that. Thank you. So I'm going to try saying, how about we consolidate all of the styles for our new Next.js application um, into one file, or yeah, into like one file or so, to keep things simple. Let's see if that does anything. If it's smart enough to remove what it already created, centralizing CSS files. All right, so it's telling me what it's thinking. It's making progress in consolidating the CSS, making a strategy, shifting gears. It's looking at the files it created to consolidate all of them. Okay. You got it. Consolidating the styles is a great idea. The LLMs usually say anything I say is a great idea. It's going to try to make a globals.css file that just imports tailwind styles. Okay. And then read each style sheet from the original application's defaults and all the other directories into one big CSS file. Okay, that's great. Let's try that. Model didn't update global CSS. I'll try again and then proceed. Okay, it tried to do some workaround and then that worked. It looks like it's modifying. Where is this global CSS file? There we go. All right. So it's trying to plop everything into here, I think. I'm surprised it's not just like in one prompt saying, okay, I'll look through all the CSS files and plopping
Yeah,
them to global CSS, you know?
it seems like it's still looping file by file.
Mm-hmm.
I could write a script to do this faster.
Right. Thought this was supposed to be quicker than a human.
Come on, computer. Well, I guess Skynet's not coming for us yet.
Skynet, it's not coming for us yet. Yeah. We'll have to try a different model and see if it can do this in a more straightforward, quicker fashion. But I just wanted to create an events route and get done with CSS. Um, would be nice if it looked pretty. So it's on footer CSS, flashes CSS. It's literally going just down. Handbook CSS. We got 3 more. And
And
then
it doesn't seem to be deleting any of the files. It's like maybe it will do that finally after copying all the styles.
yeah, let's see what it does when it gets to the end of the list. All right, almost there. We're on hover card CSS. Info list. There we go. That would be cool if it gets to the end of the list and it's like, all right, now I can delete these. Layout.css is next. Right. All right, cool. Now it's going to look at our component CSS files. It's saying I have the content for markdown alerts.css. I'll create the file in the Next.js project now. Did it forget what I asked? Let's see. Review changes. What are the changes I'm reviewing? Does it want me to accept this? Provider refused to serve this request based on the content. Huh. Haven't seen that one before. Well, this kind of leaves me in a sad place. Let's see what our app looks like now. Still just a plain Next.js application, and there's no events route yet because I haven't created that directory. Let's maybe shift gears a little bit and ask it about our events page. What about the events page? Could you focus more on creating that route and the styles for this page? Also, we still have the, I want to ask it to remove those like extra CSS files that I created. We still have those extra CSS files, and I'd prefer everything for all CSS be consolidated to one or only a few files. Dave mentioned maybe you should ask Cursor for a bash command to copy over styles. It's not a bad idea. It would be interesting to see what it gives us. It's like -rm-rf.
Oh no.
It said the provider refused to serve the request. Well, that's not very helpful.
But it looks like the thoughts that it was having was basically just repeating what it was doing before.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. My apologies for getting sidetracked by the file by file consolidation. Let's focus on the events page and get it looking right. Yeah, I haven't seen that provider problem before. Let me try one more time. I am like paying for the cursor plan, so I should have decently like unthrottled access. But if we hit that again, I might just try switching the models or something to see if we can get around it. Okay, cool. So after my question, I had got that error again, but let's look at the response real fast. It said, I will pivot to the events page. I'll finish editing the styles I've already read to the global CSS. And then I'll then specifically add the styles for the events page. With the styles in place, I will create the events route. Great. And finally, I will clean up the temporary style directories. That's great. If anyone has seen that error before, I'd be curious what causes that. Yeah. But I'm going to go in here and try switching the model. And I will try a similar prompt to what I first started with. So let's go ahead and select our Ralph mode. And maybe I'll change the model to Claude 4, which I think is the latest Claude, higher than 3.7.
I think
So
Claude 4 is the recent Claude.
cool. Let's try that. If I hit done, that should save that as the model for this mode with all the other tools selected. And this should be, we should definitely see some different behavior. So I've got that prompt saved I typed earlier. So we're just asking it to rebuild the hub application. I'm going to nuke the folder it made so it doesn't get confused by us having a folder. Let me just delete that file. Our Next.js directory. Cool. All right. Let's go ahead and just run the prompt and see if we have any better luck with Claude. That was fast. All right. It's also very anxious to help us. Oh, I got some errors. That's just with the language server though. That should be fine. All right, so Claude's going to help us with our events page. It's going to take a look at our application structure. All right, so it's saying it's reading the controllers and 6 other files. Cool. It is pretty neat to see the LLM-like thinking.
Jimmy, how does it understand the context of the Rails application? Like, have you pushed or somehow fed the input of multiple repos into the context?
I did enable, or I might have to show that, but in Cursor there are settings to like allow the models to see your entire directory structure, and I did turn that on. So it can see all of the files. Does that make sense?
It does, but I was trying to understand from where it obtained the knowledge about controllers and things that we have on the Rails code base. Because what I see,
Mm,
is it because you are creating the Next.js application from within the hub repo?
exactly, yeah.
Oh,
But
that's how it understands. Okay.
that is a good point because I didn't mention that this is the Rails application, but obviously, I guess since we're in the hub directory, it can see all of the files and it's like, oh, this is the Rails application. So, okay, so Claude gave us a very similar first request, which is to run the npx create next app command with TypeScript, Tailwind, ESLint, using the app router. Okay, I'm going to run that command. It didn't ask me for about TurboPack that time. It's interesting. And it created a hub Next.js directory. Great. Now it's moving to our project, and that's interesting. It's saying, now let's navigate to the new Next.js project. It's like the model is like CDing in there, and it's going to check out the Tailwind configuration. Oh, it's asking me to CD. Okay, sure. All right.
Very polite.
Yeah. Gemini was just like, I'm just wrecking everything.
Gemini, I came in like a wrecking ball.
It did, and then it very methodically like put the building blocks of the styles and it just like knocked them all down. Okay, so it's saying now let's add the necessary dependencies for icons and date formatting. Okay, sure. It's interesting that this one's asking me to confirm because I didn't change any settings about that. It's still cursor is still on like agent mode, which is one of the modes. There's also a chat mode where it's more of like you're just talking to the LLM. And then I think there are also a few other modes, but right now we're on agent mode, which is like the most full-on LLM mode. Okay, so Claude's making styles. Oh, great, it made some types. That's so cool for our events. All right.
We are finally getting to the events page.
We're finally getting to some code and out of CSS. It's just like
It's
a beginner developer that just wants to do CSS first.
it's so interesting how different the approaches were between Gemini and Claude.
Yeah, and I think even like it'd be interesting to try Gemini again just to see if it's varies much from the first attempt. Um, okay, now it's saying I see an issue. I'm in the wrong package JSON. Are you? It wants to look at my package JSON. That looks like the one from Next.js. Yeah. All right. So far we've got our Hub Next.js folder. It still hasn't created an events route for me, but let's see if it gets there. It is setting up some event related types, which is great. Okay, it created some sample interests, and it looks like it's pulling context from our hub repo. I'm going to resume the conversation. So it looks like cursor stops the agent from just like burning through all of your cursor credits, because I do think you get like 500 or something calls a month before you have to pay for more. All right, now it's checking out our TS config. Sure, maybe I got a little confused with path mapping. Oh, yay. Okay, so now let's create the event components. Okay. Let's create a component for individual event cards. Nice.
Jimmy,
So
have you hit the limits of the 500 calls per month anytime or
I haven't yet. Yeah. This is
nice?
definitely the most I've used a cursor, so I wouldn't be surprised if I hit the limit on this stream, but I think I was like under 100 calls when we started this, so it looks like it ran into a couple enter errors, but it's still generating things. And I'm trying to find these files that it's generating. This is our Hub Next.js folder. Maybe it wants me to accept things, or is it just like making components in our it might be creating components in our Rails repo. Oh gosh. Well, we'll see what happens when it's finished. Maybe that's why I got confused with paths. It's making components outside of our Hub Next.js folder. Yeah, it's totally putting components in a new source directory.
Whoops.
All right, well, that shouldn't break things if the paths are correct. Just a little wonky.
I'm expecting an apology soon.
Maybe it'll realize it. Yeah. Oh, my bad. Put these in the wrong place. Well, or we could try asking it to move them into the Hub Next.js repository. That's so weird because we have a source/app folder structure here, and then it created a separate source/app structure. It does look like it made an events page, which is great. This would be our events route, I think. And with arguably readable code, probably. The linter errors seem to be related to the development environment not recognizing the Next.js modules. All right, things might be getting a little wonky. Let me try to go into this directory, npm install, npm run dev to see where we are. 11 packages. And the app won't load on my Chrome. That's on the events route though. Next.js loads, okay. But we don't have our events page. And part of the problem is probably this wonky folder structure it has started. So
should we move the source files from outside of the hub repo into the Next.js manually? I feel like
copy the source files into here maybe.
Yeah, just copy everything in source inside the hub Next.js.
Yeah. I sort of want to see if we've got, let's see here. So I've got source app. I'm just checking off screen real fast. Events page. So now I've got an events page. This is where the AI isn't super helpful. Probably moving files, and some paths are screwed up because I just copied those files over. But I could save that. Still, probably some other paths are broken, and then I didn't pull everything else, like the CSS, the layout for the page, which we would need. That's interesting. It just redirects to the event page. And we already had a home page. Yeah, so Claude seemed to get a little confused. Yeah. Well, we could try a different model, a different prompt, or just try this one again. But I might go ahead and nuke the files this one created too. Yeah, that was not super successful. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, maybe specify uh, to like generate within. Did we do that in the prompt? Specify like, to create it as the app in a subdirectory?
Let's do that, and then maybe think about tweaking our prompt to not give such large emphasis on the styles. Okay, I couldn't tell if the LLM modified our tailwind config file or not. It still looks like I've got.
Yeah,
Do
like
a
should
git
we
if.
reset or something?
Oh, it made it an additional tailwind CSS or tailwind config.ts. Yeah, let me get rid of that. That might screw things up. Okay, now our hub repo is clean like it was before.
Jimmy, can I suggest an alternative if that's okay?
Yeah.
What if we create like a directory, but inside the directory there will be two separate directories, one for the Rails app and one for the Next.js app. But
Mm-hmm.
we open the top level directory as the context for cursor. That way it can clearly separate two directories, as one of them being a Rails application and the other being the Next.js application.
hub, the current repo, and then we ask it, the LLM, to make a new folder
Hub
for the
Next.js
Next.js app.
directory. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, let me try that.
I don't know if that's going to be of any difference, but at least my hope is that it won't end up confusing the LLM.
That's a great recommendation. So if I
And
go back to my
Svenja,
main thoughtbot folder,
mhm.
I just made a
Svenja on the live
hub.
stream had a question as well about
Oh yeah.
what prompt we are using to get started when we first started with cursor. I'm guessing
Hmm.
you're going to put the prompt again anyways soon.
We will. Um, cool. So Rakesh, that was a good idea. I went ahead and made a parent folder called hub dev, which I've got right here in my terminal. And in this folder, we have hub, which is the directory for the current thoughtbot hub application. And then I made Next.js hub, which is an empty folder for our new Next.js application. And the prompt, Svenja, I'm using, they joined a little bit late, but they were curious of the prompt. So let's try this again. I'll just copy the prompt. I've got it somewhere over here. This is what I've been using. So I'd like to rebuild this application hub in Next.js. Let's start with the events page. I currently have the app running, and the events page can be accessed via localhost 5000/events. I've added a screenshot so you can see what it looks like. Use this as guidance. I'd like to apply the existing styles to the new Next.js application. So I definitely want to specify now that we're in a parent folder.
Yes.
So let's say I'd like to rebuild this application, or yeah, hub and Next.js. We can say the application is located in the hub directory. Oops. Let me open cursor real fast with the right directory. Let me see if I can do that from here real fast.
Dave made a good suggestion before we go ahead with the prompt that we ask it not to worry about styles right now. Or maybe remove the
Yes,
part about styles from the prompt.
I think that's wise.
I like Svenja's comment too. It's not something that I've seen e used before in combination with these AI tools. The idea of asking for the LLM to use a TDD approach.
Ooh, do y'all want to try that? So maybe I'll remove the style emphasis as Dave recommended, and then I can still say I've added a screenshot so you can see what it looks like. Use this as guidance. And then maybe I'll say I'd prefer a TDD approach. And then let me make sure it's got the right context for like where we are. So right now I opened up another window of cursor with hub and our empty Next.js hub folder.
And we're using Ralph.
We are, thank you for checking. I did not have Ralph selected. Now we're using Ralph with, I think I like Claude. I don't know, Gemini was pretty cool,
Yeah,
but we'll stick with Claude.
I support Claude as well.
Cool. So right now I have as my prompt, I'd like to rebuild this application, hub and Next.js. The application is located in the hub directory. Let's start with the events page. I currently have the app running, and the events page can be accessed via localhost 5000 events. I've added a screenshot so you can see what it looks like. Use this as guidance. I prefer a TDD approach. Let me run hub real fast again and add that screenshot. I don't know if that's actually helping, but we'll see. Let me open my terminal actually in here. Oh, perfect. I had it pulled up. This is Hub for those that weren't here in the beginning. And we're trying to just rebuild this events page with cursor in Next.js. I'm going to grab a screenshot of that, plop it in here, and let's see. Oh, I do want to specify the folder I made for Next.js. Let's say, please place the new Next.js application in the existing Next.js hub folder. All right. After what we've been through, I'll be surprised if this if this works. All right, so cool. It's going to help me rebuild Hub and Next.js, starting with the events page using a TDD approach. And it's going to check out the structure of Hub and then set up our Next.js application. All right, it looks like it actually tried to look in the wrong folder. Not a great start. Okay, it did check that Hub folder. Cool. So maybe it was just checking that folder out for context to see if it had anything in there. So now it's going to initialize our Next.js application in the folder I specified. That's great. It gave us our command.
And it seemed really limited in scope of what it was actually looking at, the events controller and the event model, the index view for events, and the event partial.
Yep. That's a lot more precise. Dave said, I can't wait to see how it decides to do TDD. Me too, with a JavaScript Next.js stack. Especially since Hub is very much so TDD.
I'm very concerned that it will start writing tests for like 10 minutes and
Yeah. It's like, oh, you want me to write tests? I'll write all the tests. Now let me install Jest and React testing library. Okay.
Awesome. Let's go, Jest. See, this is one of those things where, you want AI to do your laundry. I'd love to have AI write my tests for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and AI like testing is one of the things I've had better success with. Is especially if you have like tests already written, you can ask it to refer to those tests and like use a similar structure and methods. So I've had great luck writing tests with LLMs.
I'd plus one to that. I've had very good success as well writing tests.
It looks like it installed those testing packages and is attempting to configure Jest DOM. It installed. It created a test script for us that runs Jest. Looks like it's working on creating some basic types for our events page. We've got interest in person, an event, some filters, and now it's going to create a test for our events page following our TDD approach. So it looks like it created a one mock event and it's describing our events page, rendering a page with the header. This is so interesting. It displays the events list. All right, specifying a few other things like time buttons. Let me install the missing Jest types. Okay, cool. So it's asking just to install the types for Jest. I like how these are using TypeScript when I'm not asking them to use TypeScript. Dave in the chat said we might run into trouble with this because Next.js doesn't support or React testing library doesn't support Next.js server components. Yes, this darn server components cause so many issues, I feel like. All right, cool. So it created the tests, and now it's creating a page, which is great. I would expect to see, yep. So we've got an events folder right here under app. So with the Next.js app router, your routes are defined via the folder structure, basically. So this would be like localhost / events would hit the events page template.
This is a lot more successful so far.
Seems to be, yeah. Let's see, it's like hard to keep up. Some of these move so fast. Creating more components, created an event card. We've got a components folder. Okay. I love that it's like kind of making separate components and not just making one massive component. That's nice. And I feel like with those like cursor rules, this might even fare better because then you're giving it even more context on how to code like a JavaScript Next.js developer.
Yeah, it's like a pre-prompt.
Mm-hmm. A pre-prompt. Let me run the tests to see if our implementation is working correctly. Wow. Okay. Nope. Request is not defined. Let me stop this real fast because we have a few minutes left and I want to see if our Next.js application starts up. Am I in the right directory? Nope, let me back out real fast. The app did start. And we've got a Next.js application that runs. Do we have an events page? Kind of. The route exists. You're importing a component that needs use state. The React hook only works in a client component. Similar to what Dave was mentioning. It's trying to use things where it shouldn't. So yeah, that was semi-successful, I feel like. We tried 2 different models, got some folder structure. One was hyper-focused on styles. One started making things in the right place and then forgot and started putting things in the wrong place. We tweaked our prompt to be more specific on where to build our application this final try and to use a TDD approach. And that does seem to be faring better. And I kind of want to keep playing with this to see. It could just be some simple things to get this fully working, which makes sense. Like the LLMs, I feel like right now do need some hand holding. In this case, it might just be like, hey, you need to specify a use client in this component for the Next.js, that specific component. So, well, that was fun. And appreciate everyone chiming in the chat. Fur in the chat says, can you guide us through the code to see if it makes sense so far? Let's take a look real fast. So we've got our Next.js hub directory. We've got our package.json file. I don't fully understand all of these except flags when it sort of just seems to be doing so many things by itself. And then it's like, wait, accept this? It created some scripts for us, like our dev script, which makes sense, a test script for testing with jest, since we specified TDD. That makes sense. Created a source directory, or just the next create next app script did that. It did make an events folder and an events page component, which totally makes sense for a Next.js app router setup. It looks like it did pretty well. Like we have this events page component with a test event that's called JavaScript and React Exploration. I love that. It added a layout, which is required for Next.js for this sort of setup with some metadata. Well, that's just default metadata, but it's still nice to have. And then it created some separate components for the page based on a Rails application.
We seem to have gotten like a good structure for this project with the last attempt. It's only lacking some final optimization that can get it working and running successfully. I feel like it's easy to go forward with what we have now than the first two attempts.
Totally. Yeah. Um, I agree with some tweaking. I think we could like get our events page running and start seeing things working and, maybe add some functionality in there. Yeah, but I think we're at time for the stream. So I appreciate everyone hopping on. If you joined at the beginning or joined halfway through, thanks for checking out Cursor and coding with LLMs with us. And yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime in the future.
Yeah, it was fun. I think the
Yeah,
TDD approach really helped.
yeah, me too. All right. Well, y'all take care.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks all.
Yeah.
Bye.